Alright guys, so you know the drill. I'm going to get these balance changes out as fast as I can so I can actually make it to work on time today. Now without further ado, let's jump into it. Starting with the gadgets. The frag grenade added an in-world indicator, is a blinking red flash that is very easy to see. It's a great change in my opinion, and now you're going to be less likely to get hit without noticing the grenade next to you. Next up, the H+ Infuser is finally getting a nerf, with decreased healing per shot from 15 to 14. The dev note here states that the Infuser was still slightly outperforming other healing items. Healing beam. This change is made to address that. Finally. Now medium healing just may have a place in the meta. And lastly, they temporarily disabled thermal vision. The dev note here states that thermal vision has struggled with a considerable number of bugs and issues for some time now. Issues that are not a simple or quick thing to fix. Some issues can offer players an unintended advantage, so we've made the decision to bench the gadget for now. We'll rework it over the next few seasons, at which point it will return in the roster. So I don't know about you guys, but this in combination with smoke was a pain in the ass to deal with, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if disabling the gadget was the way to go, but to tell you the truth, I'm kind of for this. Next up, for general balance changes, is the Wrecking Ball had an increase to its damage done from 10 to 75. I think this has something to do with the destruction update as well. Up next, we have specializations. And I know I mentioned this in my previous video where I'm going over the new content for Season 8. The Dematerializer has been nerfed, decreasing the number of charges from 3 to 2, added new functionality which now remembers exactly which wall segments were dematerialized when a charge was used. These segments are now grouped together, and if any of them is rematerialized, all of those in the group will also be rematerialized. They added a vignette to the screen that will be displayed when a wall segment is dematerialized near the player, just outside their field of view, so that players are better aware of what is happening around them. They updated the dematerial effect on walls when activated, adding a slight delay before the wall segment becomes fully transparent, and added a new vibration effect to dematerialized wall segments, which will start to play just before the wall segments would automatically rematerialize. The dev note here states that these changes have been a long time coming. The Dematerializer specialization has been by far the most picked specialization and the most winning across the majority of modes and skill tiers. We never intended any item to see so much usage, and it has sped up the pace of the game and how quickly cash out fights were resolved. Our intent has been to reduce the number of charges available to throttle the usage rate until we fix how unreliable opening and closing wall segments could be. With this new system and improved visual feedback, we're now in a place where we can reduce the ammo count. Between this change and the turret and healing beam buffs, we're hoping to return a more varied medium meta. I honestly think this is a great change. It'll give more room for the breach drill to shine. And with that being said, we're going on to the Guardian turret, receiving a buff, decreasing the cooldown from 40 to 35. Also, the decreased cooldown when retrieving the turret went from 20 seconds to 17.5 seconds. The dev note here states that as specializations go, the turret has been fairly underused. That's an understatement. We want to increase its desirability without making it too frustrating. This change will buff its availability in a match. Next up, we have the Healing Beam. Increased healing rate from 40 per second to 46 per second. Dev note here states that since the Healing Beam is a specialization, it should be one of the more desirable healing tools in the game. I could have told you that one. Since the introduction of the H+ Infuser and the Healing Emitter, aka Chuck, it's really not been desirable enough. This change allows the Healing Beam to go from 220 to 253 healing before overheating, which should buff it to where it should be. Lastly, we have the Winch Claw. Oh god, I don't want to see this. It has received an increased cooldown when missing a target from 7 to 10 seconds. There is also an increased cooldown when successfully hitting a cash out station or contestant from 14 seconds to 18 seconds. They also increased the cooldown when hitting all other objects from 7 to 14 seconds. The dev note here states that the power and impact of the Winch Claw is out of line with some of the other heavy specializations, and that is reflected in the data. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I do love the Winch Claw, but this is long overdue. It is way too powerful. Once you get locked into that opponent, there's basically no escape, especially if you're light. So I think this is a fair change. I don't know if they overdid this, but time will tell and we'll see as the season moves on. And now, finally on to the weapons. Starting with the 50 caliber Akimbos, I'm not waiting to see what's coming here. They decreased the damage fall off minimum range from 35 to 32 meters, giving the weapon a slightly shorter effective range. They also decreased the damage fall off max range from 42.5 meters to 39 meters, giving the weapon a slightly shorter effective range. Alright, so it's not that bad, okay? Now I want to check in with the Kazo a little bit after this, but for now, I think it's an alright change. The dev note here states that we feel the Akimbo pistols are performing slightly too well at longer ranges, so this is a small nudge to bring them more into the intended niche. Up next, we have the CB01 repeater receiving a sizable buff, and I think Sanguine Knights is going to be pretty freaking excited about this. They increased the damage from 84 to 88. The dev note here states that the CB01 repeater has struggled to perform well across most modes and sees a very low pick rate. This change is intended to improve its viability. Now, I don't think that has anything to do with the damage. I definitely think that has something to do with the mechanical skill needed to use the weapon, but we'll see. Hopefully this will improve its pick rate. Next up, we have dual blades, increasing how quickly the sprinting is enabled after the second attack animation begins by 25%. They also increased how quickly sprinting is re-enabled after the third attack animation begins by 15%. The dev note here states that this change is mostly to correct some inconsistencies between attacks, which made the second animation in the attack sequence more aggressively slow the player than it should have. Up next, the LH1 returning to form, kind of, by increasing its damage from 42 to 44. The dev note here states that we're still trying to get the LH1 to a place where it's viable, but not dominant like Mommy Sophia. Previous changes have seen it really bottom out in both usage and performance, so we're nudging it in an effort to improve viability and desirability. LH1 is one of those weapons that if you buff it even by a little bit, it could be very overpowered. So they're really tiptoeing on a very thin line when adjusting this, and I do appreciate that. Next up, we have the Pike 556. They decreased the damage from 50 to 48. Ooh. Also decreasing the damage fall off minimum range from 45 meters to 40 meters, giving the weapon a slightly shorter effective range. They increased the damage fall off multiplier from 0.75 to 0.8, meaning the weapon now does slightly more damage at range. This is somewhat offset by the reduction in base damage. They increased the size of bullet dispersion when firing from the hip, especially while crouched, making this weapon less accurate when not aiming down sights. The dev note here states that we feel the Pike currently has too much utility, being both good at long range but very viable at close range. These changes aim to get it where it should be, a medium to long range rifle that is less effective when fighting at close quarters. I'll be honest with you guys, this does seem harsh, but after playing in the early playtest and using the new sight that was just added, I think the Pike now is feeling pretty good. Just don't knock it till you try it, and let me know in the comments what you think after you do. Lastly, we have the Riot Shield. They decreased the maximum speed of an attack's lunge to the target from 10 meters per second to 7 meters per second. They also decreased the minimum speed of an attack's lunge to the target from 7 meters per second to 5.5 meters per second. And finally, decreased the trigger range of the attack's lunge from 4 meters to 2.5 meters. And to continue with that, and as for the bug fixes pertaining to the Riot Shield, they fixed several instances of animation desync of the Riot Shield in third person, zigzag sprints, zip lines, and aiming should now all be accurate to where the collision is situated. To add to that, they reworked the setup in first person to better represent the collision state both in guarded and non-guarded states. The dev note here states that we have another animation pass on the Riot Shield to improve the visual so they better match the collision state. While this improvement does obstruct some of your vision in the left field of view, it does give both the wielder and the attacker a better understanding of which bullets will hit the shield and which will hit the character. There is still some issues left to solve, and we have another update cooking that will improve this even further, but we felt that instead of holding off changes, we'd opt for a middle step that will improve things overall. Now, I definitely hope all this means that they fixed the hitbox, because that was the biggest problem. Didn't mind the changes with the Riot Shield, but my god, when I'm firing at these guys, I could literally fire at the feet, I could slow down footage frame by frame, and it would still be blocked. I could shoot at the opening of where the Riot Shield isn't covering, and it would still be blocked. It is the most infuriating thing to go up against, so hopefully that is fixed. And that pretty much wraps things up. If you found this video informative, please make my day and smash that like button. It truly helps out the channel and improves its visibility. Also, subscribe for all things The Finals, and I'll see you in the arena. Peace and love, guys.